प्रकाश, इस वाले से शुरू करना।
So let's talk about now the biggest mistakes that students, even working professionals, are doing. So just do a bit of glimpse on that.
So the biggest coding mistake that anyone can do in general is not staying consistent, right? Consistency is actually the key. When you lose consistency, then you have to again go back and find the track, right? Because it takes time to become consistent. It takes at least 10-15 days to come to the routine, right? Sit at one place for 1-2 hours and then write the code and all things. Once you break that, right, you lose the track. Then once you, let's say, start again, then you have to again go back and check what you did. Like at least, let's say, the last 3-4 days, whatever you did, you have to again go back and check those things, right? So you have lost the track. Consistency breaks over there. When you break consistency, then again you have to make your mind that you have to do all of these things again. So breaking consistency is a very, very big mistake that people do a lot. Secondly, the mistake that people do is they don't build their foundation firm. Right, building foundation firmly is understanding how JavaScript completely works. A lot of people just do the basic like if else, for loop, while loop and function, and they say I have learned enough of JavaScript, let's jump to a different framework. But when you jump to framework, you understand framework uses more complex JavaScript. How do you think a framework or a library is built? A framework or a library is built to make the complex things easier, right? So first, in order to understand the framework, you have to understand the complex things, right? Then only you will understand that, okay, this particular function in this library is making this complex function easier. So for that, you have to understand that complex function. So this is one of the biggest mistake. Like similarly for CS as well, a lot of people just do pixel, rem, ems, and just do, these active and passive classes and just think, okay, I have done CSS and now let's move to some framework like Bootstrap or Tailwind. But as I told you, CSS is actually a lot of theoretical, right? There is a lot of theory, there is a lot of logic building which goes into CSS is not just trial and error. So you have to understand that thing. So make your base strong, make your foundation strong. Do not go on to many frameworks, because frameworks will sooner or later die, right? A lot of people are talking about React now. Maybe 5 years down the line, we might not be talking about React. Maybe we are talking about some other framework which does not even exist. Maybe we are talking about a different framework from a different language which also does not even exist, right? Because every framework just takes a lot of pace. So that's why, relying on framework is a very, very bad thing. Rely on your JavaScript, rely on your HTML, rely on your CSS, rely on basics and build your foundation strong. So these, I think, are the coding mistakes which a lot of people do. The thirdly coding mistake basically people do is, whenever you are writing a code, I always believe, and I've always taught my students in this way, make a pseudocode in your mind, right? So when I say a pseudocode, is just write down that this is the problem statement, this is the possible route that you're going to take, and then you'll get the output in this way. And then you can form a code accordingly to that. I have experienced this in my personal journey as well. When I write a pseudocode, I get the solution immediately. But a lot of time, for a lot of complex things, when I don't write pseudocode, I'm just stuck somewhere in the middle of the ocean. Then I have to go back and write this pseudocode. This is important. Fourth coding mistake that a lot of people do is something called as tutorial hell, right? A lot of people might not have heard of this term called as tutorial hell. This is a very, very different term which I can say. What is tutorial hell is, you keep on watching multiple tutorials, right? You watch a tutorial from some XYZ YouTuber of JavaScript. You don't understand anything because you can't make project. Then you go to different YouTube and you watch that. Then you go to different YouTube, you watch that. You take some paid course on some XYZ channel, you watch that, but still you are not able to make anything because you are just simply following different tutorials, right? How to get out of the tutorial hell is to start making projects. Now you will be saying, that's why I'm watching different tutorials, right? Because I'm not able to make project. How can you make project? It's very, very simple. You basically go on to GitHub. GitHub is open source, right? You clone any project from GitHub, whichever you want, right? Read about that project, how that person has made it, and try to make your own version of it. You can just change the CSS, you can just change the HTML tag, you can just change the JavaScript logic as well, right? If the person has written logic using directly while loop, for loop, everything, you add function to it. If the person has done it with arrays, you make or you use objects instead of that, right? So something like that. When you start making these small changes into projects, then you understand how a project will actually work, and then you can go on to a big project and make projects. So that is how you actually start making projects. You can't directly start making Flipkart instantly. Like I remember one of the student, he told me, I want to make Flipkart in 4 days. I said, boss, it's not possible, right? You can make the layout, right? The home page, you can make the landing page. So whenever you want to make such projects, start with the navigation bar, then the sidebar, then the home page, right? Go step by step. Like if you click on the add to cart, it should create a list and add the product to list. Then you show the list on some other page. So this is how you should go step by step. Then you'll be easily able to make any project. But don't keep on watching a lot of programming tutorials. Just watch one tutorial, right? And I never second tutorial. You should, instead of watching tutorial, read the documentation, right? Read articles on our website GFG. You will find good articles. If you're not finding good articles on GFG, you can find it some other place as well. Read articles and make it. Read documentation, more of that, your concept will be clearer. So these are the coding mistakes to avoid.
Okay, great. And it happens as well. Like it happens in all the domains,
Right.
Not respective to web development. I've interviewed a lot of students for data science. Like in their resume, it's mentioned like they have made face recognition system. Okay, and when I'll directly call them. Okay, let's have an interview, and then I've asked them, okay, how you have made this? Do you know the image processing? And they don't know how pixel levels the things are changing. How you can make these things? It only happens when you're having plug and play model. Same like Wix, right? This will create the website using plug and play models. If you don't know how in a nutshell things are working, it's one of the biggest mistakes that students can do. So make sure to have your fundamentals strong. I think this is the key. Fundamentals can be built when you are doing projects, when you are modifying the things, when you are having your own logic. Even if you are having some inbuilt function, try to write your own function to match the same output. That's how you will learn.
So basically in browser, there is a concept called polyfills, right? So the thing in browser is evolving every day. The latest functions that we have are not supported by the previous browsers. Now what will you do in that case? There is a pitfall over here, because you only know function, you only know how to call the function, but you do not know how it works under the hood. So if you're running your website on a browser which uses a very previous version of JavaScript, your function will not work over there. So as you said, you have to understand how to even see how the function is actually working under the hood, and write something called as a polyfill for that function, so it is actually supported by the browser which uses the previous version as well. That is very, very important.
So the main conclusion obviously is, if you are having a fundamental strong, if you know how logics are working, if you can make the websites for the ones who want to make, like if you can make the websites like Wix, so definitely they want these developers. If you know how to make WordPress, these kind of things, so they definitely hire these developers, right? So the jobs will be there for sure. So if I'm talking about the roadmap of DSA, okay, for web development,